Hey guys, so you're really welcome to these continued conversations, rambling conversation of passion. And today joining me from Italy is Eleonora Cosner. Delighted to have her today. So my name is Amy Russell and I'm based in Ireland. I am an intuitive shamanic healer. I'm a yoga teacher and I'm an agent for change. And I met Eleonora many years ago. Eleonora, I must have met you, was it, when were you in Cork?
It was 2012, 2013.
Oh wow, that seems like that's so long ago. That was amazing. And you were here studying, weren't you?
Yeah, I was doing my Erasmus program in Cork.
And I remember you
So I was there.
yeah, and I remember you coming into you were speaking Irish to me one day and I felt quite embarrassed that my Irish would be I was like, you really were learning, you just immersed yourself in the culture. It was amazing. Do you still speak
Yeah, I
Irish?
love it. I still remember a few words and sentences, but not much because I don't have the chance to practice it at all.
And I know for you, the work, because I've been following your work on Instagram the last few years, the womb space that you offer and the space that you offer for women as well. And you were doing a lot of women's circles before lockdown, weren't you?
I was doing a women's circle at every full moon and at every new moon
Okay,
in
brilliant.
person. And then the lockdown made me move this work online. So I'm doing it online.
Yeah, for a lot of people, they move their work online. And what way would you structure your online, you know, I suppose in person as well, because I used to do goddess gatherings as well, and they're a really beautiful space for women to come together.
So I didn't hear your question.
I said, what way did you structure them? You know, what way in person compared to then online? It's a very different format.
Um, uh, like at first, I had wanted to move the circles online, or at least to do circles online too for a while, but I didn't get to it until I had to. And I wasn't really sure about the fact that they could work online.
Yeah.
But I was surprised because, of course, there are differences between doing circles in person and online. But the energy and the quality of the work we do is not that different.
Yeah, it's amazing energy, isn't it? It's just to be in this container. And I think the importance that women need to be together, it's really important and it's so healing.
Yeah.
And was there a theme of conversations coming up, especially during lockdown, or was there a theme of, you know, people dealing with kind of intense emotions or situations?
A theme or two to every circle, so it's not completely like random or free,
Structured.
but yeah, it's structured. But during lockdown, most women were joining, not just because of that, but also because they needed human contact, even if it was a virtual contact. But still, some people were like locked down in their tiny apartments, or maybe they were alone because they lived alone. And a lot more that, even if it wasn't like meeting people in person, but it was something really needed. So there was the loneliness, and also the fact that being in alone and like without doing the normal thing like going out, some people got for the first time to meet some parts of themselves that usually they wouldn't see or look at.
Yeah, and I think for the lockdown, it's for a lot of people because we're so busy. you know, we live in such a fast-paced society, and through how we've structured our world, there's great avoidance, isn't there? We can create great avoidance in our
Yeah.
lives, and then this great moment of pause where we actually have to stop. And I know for myself personally, my journey, because I live on my own as well, it was quite a roller coaster as well of emotions. And there was a lot of grief. I felt there was a lot of old grief. It wasn't just this lifetime, it was many, many lifetimes, lots of sadness. Yeah, and then days of euphoria as well. So really, really
Yeah. Yeah, I think the circles as other types of similar work were and are always we can process these things that come up in a safer container, in a sacred container, and with the support of other people, which is something like we're not used to be alone all the time, but we're a society, a culture where we're kind of used to be independent or to do all things like on our own, and instead we need other people. And we having people around that can see us and listen to us and embrace us as we are,
Yeah.
it makes it so much not easier maybe, but more supported for
More
sure.
support, and to be able to show those vulnerable parts as well, and to be seen, you know, because to be seen is really important, and just to be heard. I heard a famous thing before. It's like, don't tell a woman what to do because she has all the answers. You know, it's to be able, women need to talk, you know. And I know in India they used to call it the time at the well. Every day women would go to the well to do their washing, and they would just eat peanuts, do their washing, and they would talk. Because women, we have this brain, we come in to this earthly plane with these very complex brains, because women are built structurally to give life if they choose to in this lifetime or not, or else they will give birth to their ideas and to their projects. So, you know, for women to come together, like the Indian tradition, that talking, that peanut time where they talk. And for a lot of cultures, I remember they said a lot of that was lost, because not just India, women would go to the river and they would wash clothes. And then when the washing machine came in, that took out that social context and that social support, where women would come and talk together, and the importance of talking. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Even if we didn't do like meditations or other activities, but just sharing and being heard,
Yeah.
but also hearing other people's experiences, that's already a lot. And that's a tool for transformation, for blooming.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and to truly listen. And I think through developing your meditation practice and to be able to sit with yourself every day, you're able to listen to yourself more. And then I think I put up something recently. It's like to be able to listen to what the person is not saying, you know, behind all the words, because there's a different energy, there's a different story sometimes. And if the person is angry and sad, they're screaming out for love. You know, people screaming out for that attention and for that support. And women really need that, Eleonora, you know, for women to come together and to be in that sacred space. And it's amazing to hear that it worked so successfully online.
Yeah, I was really surprised, but as it happened in person, the same thing happened and is happening online. That people come there, most people do not know each other before the circle, as soon as we start sharing, then all the women are like, I feel like I'm home. I feel like I already know all of you, and I feel safe sharing, feel supported, and all the rest. Um, even if, yeah, even if people are far away and they do not know each other, but still, this feeling of women coming together, women sharing sisterhood, can be felt even when we're many, many kilometers away.
That's amazing. And it's, yeah, it's, I, because I would facilitate a lot of space, group. Through the years, I would have done a lot of group work, and it's so interesting to watch the energy of a group in person, I suppose, because I've got more experience now online, but in person, to see the group so kind of vulnerable, they haven't really gelled. And then as a facilitator, you really have to watch the energy. When is the right time for them to share, and then the opening of the space? Because I think what really a lot of people are they're afraid of rejection. You know, they will share this vulnerable part of themselves, and they will be rejected because maybe it goes back to conditioning as children, where certain emotions were rejected, or it was labeled, that's okay, that emotion, that emotion isn't okay. And so to watch a group, it's amazing when it's kind of starts opening, doesn't it? It's like a flower, and just people start sharing, and you can just feel people's hearts opening, and it's a really beautiful thing to experience. And it's amazing online that has that effect. Are you going to continue doing stuff online, you feel? Because for myself personally, it's been so successful with my teaching and workshops that I will continue a lot of my work online, but I really do feel it's important to do work in person as well when that will happen.
Yeah, I feel the same. I will continue with my online work because I can reach people that live far away from here,
Mm.
and I wouldn't like to leave all of those people behind.
Yeah.
Now that we are in touch and we are sharing, be it in our women's circle or elsewhere.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when the time feels right, I will go back to do things in person. I'm already doing like one-on-one sessions in person,
What do they
but
is this
for
what do they consist of? Is it like coaching or?
um, I follow my intuition in one-on-one sessions. They can be just a space, like a safe container for people to share, and sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
But usually there's some guidance on my part, and education as well, both theoretical and practical.
Mm-hmm.
So on themes like cyclical living, mostly menstrual cycle awareness,
Mm-hmm.
but also lunar cycles and the seasons, and also all things related to rewilding. So going back to a more natural state or a more natural way of living, which can be movement, but also rest, but also breathing, and direct connection with the earth. So like grounding, earthing, reconnection with the senses or with the elements, and a lot more things. And then I do womb work, and yeah, I also share and try to, I wouldn't say guide, but facilitate women's process in finding their spiritual path, or finding their way back to the path they may have lost.
Yeah, finding themselves back to themselves. Yeah, and that womb space. What does the womb healing consist of? Because the womb holds such a potent energy.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of what I'm doing right now with the womb space is mostly just observing and listening. Most women have never got in touch with their womb. So even just bringing the attention to the womb is like revolutionary.
Yeah, I've done a lot of womb work, but I've never heard of listening to your womb. That's amazing. So you'd get into a meditative space and you would sit into the womb.
Yeah, it depends. I don't use just like one technique for that.
Yeah.
It may be just like kind of vipassana way, so you just bring the attention there, and that's it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's deeper work, so we prepare the space, like listening to the breath first, working with the breath first, or working with the grounding connection to the earth first.
Beautiful.
And then we go to the womb, or maybe we work with the moon and then the womb. So it depends, but really just bringing the attention to the womb can be an alchemical process. And then with time passing by, we can also start doing more complex things, but often it is not necessary.
Yeah. And I'd say you might know the lady that does yoga nidra, Dr. Uma Tulsi. Yeah, she's an amazing.
Sure.
And a few years ago, I did one of her yoga nidras. Okay, yeah. So she did a cyclical cycle meditation, and it was a night sky. I think it's still available on her. She has free yoga nidras on her website, Dr. Uma Tulsi, and it's there still. And I remember it was so profound because she guided the meditation, and then like halfway through, she brought us into her womb space. And I remember going, I've never been here. I was like, oh wow, I've never been here. And then we had the womb tree, and it was such an amazing energy and potent. And I was like, I was so blown away. So maybe for a lot of women, I don't think they've experienced the power of the womb.
Yeah, that's the reason why I say that most of the time we don't even need to do like visualizations or anything else, because just bringing the attention there is enough. It's more. For me, like most of my life I've lived like up here, and even my spirituality was really like a high spirituality, a sky spirituality.
I know for a lot of women I've talked to, very much up here, and then through yoga, because you're a yoga teacher as well, and that's an amazing practice to get you back into your body.
And you know what? Like yoga first brought me back to the body, but that wasn't enough for me, because all the meditation practice that I did through the yoga through the yoga practice, were still really like tending up. And as it's a really easy thing for me. It was during a meditation, I was like almost brought back to my body and to the earth. And a voice told me, no, stop it here. Don't do this kind of, just connect to the earth, ground.
Okay.
And this was over 3 years ago. So since then, I've been moving to of earth practices. I mean, they were already part of my life, at least since I was 14 years old.
Mm.
But now the message was really clear to focus on that.
Mm.
So yeah, earth practices, natural movement, and so it really embodies
You froze.
I lived most of my life up here, both intellectually and spiritually. But then at some point, a little over 3 years ago, something happened during a meditation, during a yoga teacher training. And we were doing something really up high with the meditation.
Yeah.
And I was brought back to the body and to the earth almost in a violent way, I would say.
Mm.
And I was told that now was the time to be on this earth and to be embodied and not to escape this earthly plane in order to connect to something elsewhere. And so I listened and I started moving my attention to a lot of earth practices. I mean, the earth and nature were only part of my path, but now, like, the message was clear. I had to focus on that and to be embodied. So I started doing things to reconnect with the earth. First, some grounding and earthing. So like direct connection with the earth and the outside, the outer nature.
Yeah.
And then I discovered the natural movement practices, and that brought me to many different things. So reconnected with the moon in a very natural way, I would say, in a very cyclical way. And then all this process, along with a problem I had with my ovaries, brought me to the womb work and the menstrual cycle awareness.
Wow. Yeah. And I think in a culture that we've maybe all grown up in, I was only ever told about my period. There was no discussion around sex, but it's still, this thing, it's like, it's quite, considered dirty, all this advertising, it's like sanitize yourself, clean yourself. And it's like, this is, every man, every woman that has birthed onto this planet has birthed through a woman. I keep reminding myself that, it's like, you're here like because a woman gave her body to be the vehicle, whether that was traumatic for her, which usually, in modern culture, birthing is quite traumatic for a lot of women, and it's, postnatal and prenatal, and it's a lot of women don't talk about these things. And I just remember as a child, as a young woman, it's like obsessing about getting your period and finally becoming a woman. But our culture not to talk about these things, and it's like, hide it away, and to break down that stigma, Eleonora, is so important.
Yeah, that's one of the, I mean, I've started sharing things on the menstrual cycle and on the womb because they've helped me a lot. They've changed my life in many, many ways. And I know they are very important. but also I love to dismantle taboos and things that, so that's why I talk a lot about menstruation and the menstrual blood, but also about death, because they go hand in hand for on many levels. And so it's a very long and intense process, the one that of dismantling those things. A lot of women have never been told anything about their menstrual cycle. A lot of women don't even know what the menstrual cycle is, like in its fullness. And but from what I've seen nowadays, there's a lot of interest in knowing more about these things. There are, I don't know if you know Alexandra Pope and Shani Yugo-Wurlitzer. They are two, Alexandra is British, I think, and Shani is from South Africa. And they work together in the field of menstrual cycle awareness. And that's where it's from them that I've learned first about these things. And what they say is that the menstrual cycle is the first and main, it is a spiritual practice.
So say that again, because just the beginning of that sentence, it just cut there. So say what do
they do? So they do, I mean, it's not like I don't have the exact words in my mind, but the sense is, the meaning is that the menstrual cycle is the main spiritual practice for women. Because it's not something that we choose to do or to practice. It's something that happens to us. And if lived consciously with awareness, it's like it opens up many doors to many worlds, and it can be a really supportive aspect of our life, and not a thing that I don't want to have this thing, or I would prefer not to have it. And so it can really be a spiritual practice, because getting to know the menstrual cycle, not just the period part, but like the whole menstrual cycle, is a way to support ourselves in our daily life, but also it can really be a deep, deep, deep spiritual practice, above all during the period, during the menstruation, but not only. And so it's really, for me, it's a huge theme. It's something I talk about a lot, but not separately from the other cycles, because everything is connected. So the menstrual cycle, the lunar cycle, the seasonal cycle, but all the cycles that exist are interconnected. And in each cycle, there are similar phases, phases that bring the same energy. And so it's a really complex thing, but for me now that I try and share it with people, with women mostly.
Yeah, but that's amazing. And just going back to what you said there, that comment about the link between the menstrual cycle and death. You know, and just to expand on that a little bit, Eleonora, it just kind of caught me there. It was something really, really beautiful, because it's very
so I think that the menstrual cycle, and mostly menstruation, the menstrual phase, is connected to death both because both themes are taboos, but also because the bleeding time of our cycle is the death and rebirth part of our cycle. When we release the menstrual blood, we are releasing something that is dying. And we're also our old identity is dying, because every cycle is a chance to give birth again to ourselves. So the bleeding time is both a death time, but also a rebirth time. Yeah. Because once the first 1, 2, 3 days of the bleed are over, we're maybe still bleeding, but everything inside of our womb is starting to be reborn. So on a physical level, this happens, but it also happens on an energetical level, emotional level, on all levels. Yeah. But like, if we don't give ourselves the chance to die a little, yeah, we lose many things. We lose a really rich chance to learn about ourselves, and we don't give ourselves the chance to change, which is something we cannot block, because change is the only constant in life. Yeah. And it's something that happens even if we don't want to, but if we live it, if we live change, if we live the cycles with awareness, yeah, it's so much more transformative and enriching, I would say. And all of these, we can find this death part in all of the cycles, because as Clarissa Pinkola Estes writes in Women Who Run with the Wolves, yeah, there's this life, death, life cycle, and all natural cycles are based or connected to this life, death, life. So in every cycle, be it the menstrual cycle, the lunar cycle, the seasonal cycle, everywhere, even the breath cycle, there's a death phase. Yeah. And then, I mean, growing, living, and growing old, but there's this death phase in all cycles. Yeah, definitely. It's, I suppose, the archetypal, which in Ireland would be Bridget, would be the Virgin, the Maiden, the Crone, and that's across all cultures around the world. It's just that this deity, this archetype, has a different name. And I know I'm from the Beara Peninsula originally, and we have the Khalak. She is the Khalak bearer, and she is the crone, and she is what has stood for all time and witnessed, the changes of the epoch. And now we're at a great change on Earth at the moment, Eleonora, moving from patriarchal society into a matriarchal society. And we're at the labor pains, and there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain on the planet, and there's a lot of shadow stuff coming up. I feel in the last few years, the work that I've done with my own work, my own personal journey, my own healing, which I feel will never end. It's constantly, you're like, wow, the helix comes around. It's like that spiral, and something you think you dealt with and looked at, it's like it comes back for you to look at it again. So it's like this journey that we're on at the moment, and seeing the change on the planet, and all this shadow stuff coming up to be healed and looked at, and the imbalance and the injustice and the sexism and the racism and the lack of resources, and the inequality of wealth spread across the world.
So, you know, it's an exciting time to be on earth, but it can be daunting. And, you know, I really, you know, to champion other women is so important, and for women to come together and to break down those taboos and those cultural old ingrained, because a lot of these, through the work I've been doing, they're really, really old. You know, the kind of women against women, this kind of bitchiness, this yeah, it's all the shadow stuff coming up to be looked at and to be healed and to be welcomed, and to really look at it, because women are the healers. You know, women are the container, women are the intuitives, you know, and women have that vision. And, you know, we have this vision that we want to birth for this new earth. And what are your thoughts at the moment with the shadow stuff for going forward with your own work, Eleonora? How do you feel? How do you feel with the mammoth task, the mammoth task ahead?
It's been like, I feel that the as we keep going, all of these processes become, at least for me, my personal journey, faster.
Yeah.
And more intense.
Yeah.
So there are more and more things coming up to be processed, to be faced, to be also, I would say, it's the things that come up, the shadows that come up. I don't want to necessarily transform them, but I want to make friends with them.
Yeah.
To integrate them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's becoming faster. And as you said, the healing process is not linear, it's like a spiral. And there are things that I thought that I had healed or just understood, and they come up again, and I'm like, okay, again. But I feel like really we have all of the people, but women mostly, have the chance to go through this process, because we have a built-in process, which is the menstrual cycle. For those of us who, at least for those of us who have a menstrual cycle, then, I mean, it's not that those who do not have a menstrual cycle cannot do this work. But for those of us who have a menstrual cycle, it's like we are both kind of brought to do this, even if we don't want to, but also supported by our own body, by our own mechanism to do these. And cycle after cycle, we are offered the chance to look at the shadows, to let go, to choose something new, and to do all of the process cycle after cycle. So we don't have to wait for, I don't know, a whole seasonal cycle to do that.
Yeah.
But we're brought to do this because something physical like happens.
Yeah. It's amazing. And those people that you mentioned about we'll put the links below for that book, you know, The Woman That Runs with Wolves. And you mentioned as well Alexandra
Pope and Shani Govurlitzer. Yeah,
we'll put the links below the video as well, and just so people can, if they want more information. Do you recommend any other books for people, or if people are interested in this topic?
I mean, there are many books, but
yeah,
I think that these two, I mean, Women Who Run with the Wolves has been like my Bible, and it's a book I go back to once in a while, and it's supported my process when in 2017 I received the message to be embodied, and to go back to the earth. And Wild Power is the book by Alexandra Pope and Shani Yugo-Wurlitzer, one of the books, but like the main book on menstrual cycle awareness. And it supported me in my menstrual cycle awareness journey. And they are really, really good teachers for this practice, this topic. They have written this book, but they also have like online courses and resources.
Yeah.
So these two are a very good start if people get to these practices and these awareness for the first time.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And the title of these videos is Rambling Conversations of Passion. And again, I felt guided just to do these and pulling in different people that I admire, and I know that they're doing the work. And it's, as you said, it's like it was your own moon cycle and your own healing journey that brought you to this work as well. And it's like we just want to share. So I know for me as well, a lot of the work that I've done, it's like I've seen what works, so I share what works for me. And it's talking about our passions. And have you any other passions, Eleonora, you want to talk about? Because I know that you mentioned gardening, and are you doing permaculture?
I'm currently just started studying because I don't have a piece of land. I'm growing some tomatoes and basil, but I don't have a piece of land, so I can't really put into practice what I study. Yeah, the whole thing about permaculture brought me to the concept of regeneration and regenerative agriculture, culture, and everything else. So I'm part of a project here in Italy. We're developing this project right now. We're trying to make it a reality. Hopefully it will be a reality very, very soon. And we have there are a lot of things that we want to do with this project, but yeah, it's bringing these regenerative practices in all fields, I would say. And for those of you who do not know what regeneration is, it's kind of a step forward compared to sustainability.
Yeah.
Because sustainability, the meaning of the word means preserving what is, and regeneration instead tries to make the land or the cultures, the people thrive again.
Amazing. That sounds amazing. Any other passions, Eleonora? I was thinking the last day, I was just off the top of my head, I was like, what are my top five favorite things, And I was like, fresh lemons, organic lemons. I was like listing, I was like, I don't know if you've been to Dingle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a few years ago, a friend came from Canada and we sat, and my other one that came on my list really quickly was a sunset at Slayhead Drive. Slayhead is really beautiful. It's the Sleeping Giant. Do you remember the Sleeping Giant?
Yeah.
The island, yeah. And I can't remember what else was on my list, but actually when I went through my list, they're all very simple things. It's like I really get kind of antsy if I don't have my hot water and lemon in the morning, or if I'm staying someplace and I forget to bring a lemon and somebody doesn't have lemon. I'm like, oh, I don't have my lemon water. So these are very simple things that give me pleasure. 5 things, and I think most of them are related to food, nature, being with friends and family, community. The top 5 favorite things. And for you, is there anything that you're passionate about that you can't live without?
Music, in the sense of singing and playing.
Beautiful.
I do this every day, and it saved my life in many times. and then being outdoor,
Mm.
in connection with the outer nature.
Yeah.
Be it the woods, or a lake, or the sea, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's it. It's the simplicity of things, and you know, kids are the same. You know, I had friends. They came, was it yesterday? And the kids came, and I had them drawing pictures, and we went to we did water sports, and it's just, these are like precious memories that you create, and the sense of laughter and community and being together, and then
Yeah,
the simplicity of music, how healing that is as well. And I, you know, it's a form of meditation in itself when you play your guitar, Eleonora.
absolutely. Guitar, I do at the moment. I mean, I studied only the piano, but I play the guitar, the ukulele, and I've started to play again the tin whistle I bought when I was in Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, these things, and books as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I know I had to I make contracts. One of my teachers, she was like, make contracts with yourself, you know, so make a contract would be like, I'll do a 40-day practice. And my contract was, I'm not allowed to buy more books until I've read, until I've read what I have. Because during lockdown, I would have ordered a lot of books. So I was just out of interest, because this video is going to go up on YouTube at this time. And just because we would use social media for, I think you use Instagram, I use Instagram and Facebook for my work, and it's a good way to get our work out there, and people are just, you know, on their phones. And at the moment, I've noticed there's different kind of trends come up on Instagram, and one of the trends is, you know, the black and white photograph, and put a black and white photograph of yourself on Instagram, and it says challenge accepted. And I was like, okay, I'm not getting into that judging space. I'm just trying to understand how I feel about it, and I just observe. And it's like, you know, I actually thought, because a few people nominated me, and I was yesterday, I was like, oh, I'll take a photograph of myself, but it has to be in a good space, and I might add a filter, you know, so automatically I could feel myself filtering myself, if that makes sense. Picking the best photograph, you know, and of course I'm all about women supporting each other, and it's so important. But I think it kind of stemmed from Alexandra Osario Cortez. She's the OAC, she's the congresswoman in Washington. I think her constituency is New York, and she was just addressing Ted Yosho. I don't know if you saw her statement. Did you see her statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just she spoke, and she wasn't going to speak, she said, and she wasn't going to say anything, only that he, the day before, had, you know, went to Congress, and he made a statement about his language and the way he spoke to her, and like, I am a man, I have daughters, and I have a wife. And so she decided then the next day to stand up in Congress and to speak, AOC, this lady, and she's 30, and she's an amazing speaker, and I would recommend anybody just to listen to the recording. And he said, I think he called her on the steps of Congress, the steps of the Capitol. He called her crazy, disgusting, and out of her mind. And you know, these are words for a very long time have been given to women and labeled. You know, women are crazy. You know, you're disgusting. A woman is out of her mind. In Ireland, we used to have a terminology going back. You know, a woman, she's taken to the bed. She suffers from her nerves. And you know, the way she talked was really, really potent and really powerful. And she said, you know, this culture of violence against women, and this dehumanizing language, and you know, the way he was stating, like, I have daughters, and I think she said it so beautifully. She said, I am somebody's daughter too, you know. And I think all this stuff is just coming up more and more. And you know, I'm not going to put a black and white photograph on Instagram, because I don't feel that's for me. is what I want to say. You know, it's like I want, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel it's a platform that I want to use. That I want to, because I feel that the meaning can be lost within all that. And, you know, it's like, oh, this person. And then I feel like kind of, I don't know how you feel about it, Eleonora. I'm still sitting with it, because sometimes I will get tagged for stuff and I'm like, no.
I think I'm in your same place. I mean, I'm all for women supporting women. It's what I do. Like, it's a really big part of what I do in my
And
work,
same with my work as well, yeah.
yeah, and in my life. But yeah, it's not like that. That is not my way of doing that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's not the right way to do it.
Yeah.
It's just not my way. I do it in other ways.
It's discerning, and that's why we have to discern what feels right for me, and what might be right for me might be different for you. So for me, I'm like, I just need to sit, and I'm like, discerning is like for me, and it's like, no, and I'm not judging other people, but for me, yeah. And I think that's where we have to get out of here and this reactive and get into here. You know, as you said, the earth, the womb, the connection, the emotions live in the body. They don't live up here, you know. Our thoughts can create those emotions and kind of fuel them. But it's like, we need to get back in and to trust what's right for us. And for me, I think I sat into it and I was like, yeah, you know, each to their own. But it's interesting. But I think more so what sparked it, but then it's like, you know, the powers that be churning, they're moving the cogs. And they said that maybe the campaign was started by a man, you know. So, you know, why are these things started? And then distraction from the bigger picture or what's really happening, you know, on the planet.
Yeah, I think I agree with when you said that the meaning of this thing can be lost, because even now, like when I see a black and white picture of this thing, I mean, I kind of know what it's all about, but I can't understand the meaning from the pictures I see.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a bad thing to do that. It's not a bad thing to post a picture of ourselves and tag other women and say, you know, I love you, I support you, and I would love to share a picture of yourself. Yeah, again, it's just not my way of doing these things.
Yeah, totally. And for me, it's like, you know, life is messy. I have gray hairs, you know, I have wrinkles. You know, I get things wrong. I use curse words. I say the wrong things sometimes, but we're fallible human beings, you know, we get things wrong. And I think with social media, and we use it as a tool, but it can be very, very, very complex and insipid and dangerous as well. And the young people, I don't know what age range of women you work with. Have you worked with any young women around the age of 15, 16, 17, 18?
Not right now. I did it a while ago, but it was just for a short time. So I usually work with women like between 20 years old and 40 and over. I mean, even 50, but so it's these range of age. I mean, I'm turning 29 this year, and I also grew up without a mobile phone. I first had a mobile phone like when I was 11, just because my dad had lost it, bought a new one, and then found it, and it was given to me. But like my first smartphone, I bought it like 6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Not before. And yeah, it's changed completely the way I use it. And I'm also in the process of understanding how I can use this thing and not being used by this thing.
Yeah, that's a good statement. How can I use this and not be used by it? Yeah, totally. And it's just interesting. It's something that I'm trying to unpack as well for myself, and it's going to be a bit of a journey, definitely. But yeah, we touched on loads today, Eleonora, and I'll leave the links below, and to your work and to those books and to the topics we touched on today for these rambling conversations of passion. And I hope you get to come to Ireland again soon, and then we get to see
I
you.
hope so.
Yeah, I know. So sending you so much love, and thank you so much.
Back to you.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.